do about this?
Yes, it's already planned. It was planned a long time ago. They knew I gather from what I have heard, I knew it 5 months in advance. They knew it probably a year or two in advance, exactly how they were going to carry every bit of this out. And it was all planned with the Muslim Brotherhood eventually being the heads of state of every single one of these Middle East countries.
But is it, if you're saying might makes right, doesn't that run a fly in the face of the teachings of the Creator? Doesn't that give us no reason to stand up at all if, hey, they're stronger than we are, so there's nothing we can do?
Well, quite to the contrary. There's something that we must do about the world's elite. We can't just stand here and allow our children, our grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren to be slaves to these people. And this is the very reason that whenever they tell me something, I try my best to give it in such a manner that people will understand it, because we must take action, just like you're doing, Brent. Day after day, you try to warn the world what's happening.
Right,
I do the same thing.
Once warned, what can we do against such a force and such influence?
There was one thing I learned when I lived with the elite of the world. There's only about a handful of them, believe me, at the very top, who know everything that's going on. You probably could say you've got a dozen people at the very most. Under that is a much larger group in the Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, the groups. On down the line you could go, with each one knowing less till you get down to the liberal news media. But at the very top, these people are scared to death. Believe me, in living with them, in talking with them, they know that if the masses ever wake up, they're done for. And this is the one thing they fear more than anything else. They don't fear the collapse of the dollar. In fact, this is what they want. They fear America's bankruptcy and having to default on our national debt. This is what they want. This is part of the plan of the Middle East and what they're bringing about. But there's one thing they do fear. They fear the masses of people waking up, Brent.
All right, excellent. That's what I wanted to hear. I just wanted to make sure the listeners aren't becoming hopeless, when they're listening. That's what I wanted to hear. All right, now, the Egyptian military interim government has outlawed all protests, even though it sits in its current position of authority due to protests. Was that planned by the globalists, or is it a surprise, and with what connotations?
Well, as long as the Muslim Brotherhood have already taken over, as long as they, for all practical purposes, are in power until they have another election, and then they'll see to it that they are put in as the governing force in Egypt. Same thing will take place in Libya. It matters not, as long as the Muslim Brotherhood are in there to be able to accomplish what it is that the elite want done, and the elite are supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. You wonder, where do they get their finances from? Where do they get the arms that they're using to do what they're doing? Well, every bit of it is supplied by the elite themselves. Now, let's go to another thing happened last weekend. And very few people in America even caught this, because Japan was overshadowing all of what was happening in London. Libya was overshadowing what was anything else that might be there. And practically no place in America did you hear anything about 500,000 people in London rioting, breaking out windows, protesting, saying we've had enough, we're not going to take cuts. Yeah, you've got to realize what the map of the Muslim Brotherhood is. And whenever you see it in my presentation, the Middle East, the rest of the story, until then, it'll be difficult for you to understand. But when you see what the elite are doing through this group for the end purpose of accomplishing what the elite want to accomplish with the New World Order, you realize that so many of the Muslim population have moved into London because at one time the sun never set on the British Empire. Well, as a result, so many can go in and become a part of this. And did you notice that faces were covered up? Did you notice that they didn't allow anybody to see who they were or what color their skin was? You had about 500,000 people rioting in London last weekend, and every bit of it goes back to what they eventually want to accomplish throughout all of Europe and the Middle East. Right now, they have to bring the prices of oil up by causing these conflicts in the Middle East itself. Then it's going to be one right after the other. I'm sure you realize what's happening to the European Union. Portugal, everything but declaring bankruptcy. Then you've got Ireland, Greece, Spain, Italy, France, Belgium, right on the verge of collapse. every newsletter writer almost is saying, folks, you don't realize how close we are to a collapse of the euro, the European Union. I was told, and I've given it on many programs, I think I probably gave it on yours, Brent, that from the time you see the euro crash, from the time you see it literally destroyed, which is going to happen, just a matter of time. The European Union is in drastic trouble right now. And whenever you see the euro crash, you've got 3 days. That's correct. You've got 2 to 3 days to get out of all paper, or you're going to lose it, because they're going to bring in a new worldwide currency.
Are you saying the euro crash is to precipitate the dollar crash?
The euro will crash, and you've got only a matter of days until the same thing will happen with the dollar.
Got it. Okay.
And I was given this expression. Here's the expression. I'd like to put it the way that it was put to me. They said the dollar. They said that the dollar, about the end of 2012, that the dollar will be. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the exact words. They didn't say that the dollar would be non-existent. They merely said that the dollar will become so worthless by the end of 2012 that it won't amount to anything. Now, they did not say non-existent.
Okay.
And I try my best to pick their words the best I can.
So let me interrupt, because we only have a few minutes left. I have a very important question, and I want to make sure I ask it, so you'll have to forgive me for the interruption. Israel's Knesset recently passed something called the Citizenship Act, which allows the government to revoke anyone's citizenship if it deems that person to have harmed or threatened Israel's sovereignty. When combined with October's passage of the Loyalty Oath Act, this has the creepy, crawly feeling of Nazism. Now, there's something real weird about the idea of Israel Nazism. What do these hardline policies mean for the overall Middle East situation, and how do they fit into the globalist agenda?
It frightens me to no end whenever I see Israel get involved in all of this. And this is going to be the most devastating part of all. Now, you have to see this. In this new video that we just made, 3 DVDs, 3 hours approximately, the Middle East, the rest of the story, we were able to get a news clip of Egypt when they were chanting. And I couldn't understand the Egyptian language, but it was translated, and here it is. Here's the end goal of the whole thing. They were chanting in the square that day, "To Jerusalem we go, martyrs in the millions." Over and over and over, they were chanting it. The end result of every bit of this is going to be a major problem in relation to Israel, and this frightens me more than anything else about what's happening in the Middle East right now. Jerusalem and Israel is not left out of the program at all.
Well, this Citizenship Act and Loyalty Oath Act are right out of Adolf Hitler's playbook, and you know that they're going to be used against the Arabs living in Israel, and you know what that's going to precipitate. And I don't see anything good coming out of this, and it looks like a very serious warning sign of things to come.
It is a very serious warning sign. Watch what happens in Israel. That will take place after they've been able to accomplish everything that they want done in the Middle East, because they must get the price of that oil up to around $200 a barrel. They must get gold up to $3,000 an ounce. They must collapse the dollar. There is going to be a default on the American debt. And whenever it happens, it will affect not only the Middle East, it will affect China, many other people that are holding our Federal Reserve paper. It's going to be a devastating situation. If you want the entire story, please, I beg of you, get my latest presentation, the Middle East and the rest of the story. Let me give you a number.
I'm going to give out the info. We still have a few minutes, not to worry. I will give it out, and I'm also going to continually, I put the links on our website. But can you offer us projections for the next 4 weeks and beyond?
The next 4 weeks are extremely critical. In fact, I was going to carry out a certain business transaction just here the other day, and one of my friends who's very, very much in the know, very knowledgeable, he said, "Chaplain, I don't know whether I'd even do it or not." He said, "I don't know how long you have." I'll put it this way. You are going to see things in the Middle East escalate. You're going to see them become very desperate about Libya and Gaddafi if he isn't even either assassinated or steps down, which doesn't look like he's going to step down, because they're ready to go. They're ready to go right now, only into Yemen, Iran, Syria, and finally Saudi Arabia. The next few weeks are going to be very critical, and you need to watch what happens to the dollar. The last thing that you're going to see to go is the American stock market. They are propping up by their plunge protection team. They will not let it fall until the very last thing that happens. And every bit of this is so that the people will not become too alarmed. Again, I go back to what I said earlier. The one thing that the elite are afraid of more than anything else, I learned when I lived with them, they are scared to death of the masses, and they do not want the masses to wake up to what they're doing until the very last minute.
My guest is Pastor Lindsey Williams. The website, www.prophecyclub.com. That's Prophecy, prophecyclub.com. You can also call them toll-free, 888-799-6111. That's 888-799-6111, and ask about Middle East, the rest of the story. Final question for you, Pastor Lindsey, and that's the question I'm asking our listeners today. I promised I would ask you. Do you believe the activities of freedom fighters and truth seekers around the world are having any effect on the implementation of the globalist agenda?
Positively. In fact, I think they have accelerated that program merely because of the fact they realize that so many people around the world are waking up to what they're doing, and it's because of programs like yours and others like you that are reaching so many millions because people are desperate, and when people get desperate, they start listening to everything that's going on, pro, con, conservative, liberal, whatever it may be, and they're sorting it out, and for the first time they're hurting to the point that they feel they must do something about their situation.
I want you to remember to take care of yourself and keep yourself safe, because we look forward to seeing you every few weeks here on the Global Freedom Report. And what you don't know is whenever I introduce you, I always tell people that you represent one of the most credible sources of information in this arena. And so it's important that you stay around, and it's important that you stay protected and safe.
And likewise, you, Brent, you've got to stay around, too. We need people like you. In over 35 years, everything the elite have ever told me has come to pass exactly like they said it. There's no reason to believe that they're not going to accomplish this the same way. So Lord bless you, and keep up your great work, Brent.
Thanks so much. Pastor Lindsey Williams has been my guest. He'll be back with us in a few weeks with his Global Elite Report. www.prophecyclub.com. We'll have that website up as a link on our website as well. The toll-free number for Middle East, rest of the story, 888-799-6111.